Welcome to the Earth's Edge podcast. I'm your host, James McManus. At Earth's Edge, we run guided expeditions with a focus on environmental and cultural sustainability. We created this podcast to share stories from people who have found the outdoors and fallen in love with adventure. Each month, we're giving away one of our summit jackets worth €150. To be in the running, all you need to do is subscribe to our mailing list at earths-edge.com/podcast. There's a link in the show notes. Now, for today's guest.
You can either stop, and sometimes you have to stop, or you can just keep on going, and you find some strength in yourself that you don't even realize that you might even have. And that's something that you can take back to all aspects of life afterwards.
That was Micheál Penston. He and I worked together at Earth's Edge HQ from 2016 to 2018. Micheál has a fascinating story, changing careers twice before finding his true passion in life, working as a personal trainer. He also tells me about his trip up Kilimanjaro in 2018, where he suffered greatly to reach the roof of Africa. We start out discussing his early years growing up in Wicklow and being the first of the Penstons to go to university.
I had a pretty cool childhood now, in fairness. So there's me and my sister Mairead, but there's a 7-year age difference between us. So I'm the eldest. So I kind of had 7 years on my own before Mairead came around. Probably the parents probably needed that to get over me. But I'd say as a kid growing up, with quite a cool life. We lived out in the countryside. So I was kind of always surrounded by kind of nature. And my grandfather on my father's side had probably a big influence in my life growing up as well, was just kind of getting me outdoors. And
did you get out in much adventures with your dad and granddad?
Yeah, like as a kid, like, so my dad's father, we always call him Pops. He was someone that kind of, I always say, really shaped my view on the world and sort of how to treat people and interact with people. But he was I remember him back in the 80s, he was kind of talking about a concept of the internet before he even came around. So he was a big dreamer in that sense, and he was always kind of talking along the lines of, what is this and what is that, and loved nature. So I'd always be out with him, kind of, he'd be teaching you all the different kinds of birds or what this tree is and bits about nature. So like, I suppose he had a big influence in that regards, with kind of shaping my inquisitive nature.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, we're going to get on and talk about your trip with us to Kilimanjaro, but it's cool to remember back those, on paper, small adventures, but actually at the age that they were totally epic. Myself and my cousin used to hang out a lot in the summer when we were kids, and we'd be doing mad adventures and like digging holes and all kinds of stuff like that, like just up to messing and this and that. And yeah, it's just a fun time. And what about sport, man? I know you're a PT now. Like, were you big into sport growing up?
You know what? I probably, as a kid, I probably wasn't big into fitness at all. I was a bit of an overweight kid, believe it or not, up until I was about maybe 10 or 11. So I suppose I got maybe picked on a little bit when I was really young in school. But I kind of grew up with a father who had the ethos of, don't ever get picked on and give him a slap if that's the case. Not that I condone violence, kids, but that was the kind of, once you sort of give the slap out, that kind of subsided, that picking on. But yeah, I never was really kind of big into fitness. Would have played football, would have played a bit of played a bit of basketball as a kid. But yeah, wasn't really sort of big into fitness. That only became more of an outlet as I got a little bit older, more so for de-stressing. That's where kind of fitness and exercise first came to the forefront for me.
Yeah. What did you study in college, and where did you do that?
I studied mechanical and manufacturing engineering in Trinity. I did 4 years there, probably back in early 2000s. And yeah, it was great. Loved the social element of Dublin, probably more so than I did the studying part of it. But yeah, it was good times.
And come here, that seems like knowing you, like it seems like a strange choice because you're such a people person. Like, what made you make that decision to study manufacturing?
Yeah, like I suppose that's been a big thing I've kind of struggled with in the early part of my years. It was probably I always say that I'm probably marched to the beat of other people's drums a little bit growing up than kind of really following my own passions. And, to no one's fault other than my own, really. But I grew up in a family of kind of electricians, fitters and decorators, and, quite a hands-on sort of tradies family on both sides. And I was the first one in my family to kind of go to university, which was a big thing for the family. And I suppose I kind of gravitated to that a little bit as well. My father had been an electrician in Trinity, so it was kind of a big deal to him and other people that, Jesus, he's heading off to study engineering there.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I find it interesting because I was a bold student in school. Like, I was always up to no good, and my older brother and sister are both very academic. Like, so when it kind of came to me doing the leaving cert, like, my mother was very worried about me, so she sent me off up to Lochray in Galway to go see like a career guidance expert, and she had me fill out this 200 questionnaire. And at the end of it, she decided, like, because I was good at practical subjects like metalwork and woodwork and that. And I was super into the outdoors and all that. And so, you know what she just recommended I do? Like, well, because you're into practical stuff and you like being outside, you should be a civil engineer because you'd be outside building bridges and stuff. And I was like, here, hang on now, come on, so. But sure, none of us have a clue at that age, man, do you, really, in fairness?
No, not a hope. And you know what? It probably says a lot about the pressures we put on kids as well. Like, there's a lot of pressure put on you at like 16, 17, 18 to be thinking about your future and sort of to invest fully in this kind of one path. And, you don't know. You haven't been out in the world and seen it yet and got to experience it and really kind of take in what you value and what your priorities are. I think until you really get to that point, it's you're guessing, really.
Yeah, I think culture has changed a lot there. People are moving between careers and stuff. And you're a classic example of that. But so, come here, you graduated anyway, and then you started working in that sector. What was that like?
Do you know what? I actually enjoyed it at the start. I enjoyed the kind of practicality of it. I enjoyed getting out and I like problem solving. I've always liked that side of things. I like if there's been faced with a problem and trying to kind of overcome it. So I only kind of did it for about a year and a half before I sort of took off on my first set of travel. So when I came out of college, I worked for just about a year, I think maybe, in a manufacturing site in my hometown. And that was a great kind of baptism of fire of being out in the working world. And yeah, I enjoyed it. And then the opportunity of doing a bit of travel came up. It was probably the theme of my 20s. I got drunk one night with my buddy Brian and we booked a flight to New Zealand and a visa. And we were heading off a couple of weeks later to New Zealand. And that was supposed to be for 6 months. And it turned out to be 3 years in the end.
Wow.
That's where travel really and people and that kind of seeing the world really took over for me then.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and were you working in manufacturing out there?
No, I did plan to go out there and work, but at the same time, I was like, you're at the other. I was in the kind of mind frame of saying, look, I could be potentially doing this until I'm 65. I might as well go and see a bit of the world and take a bit of a break for it, and have the piece of paper. I've got the qualifications. If I want to go back to it, I can do it when I get back to Ireland, whenever that might be. And as I said, I only kind of plans to do it for 6 months at the start. So when I went out, it was just to kind of really have the crack.
No doubt, man. No better, man. And crack is in phone for any of our American listeners. Come here. So then so I'm just trying to get the timeline in this. So before you started working for Earth's Edge, you were working in the UK, yeah?
Yeah. So how would I, I probably did, how did it plan out? So I would have done the year at home, first of all. Then we went off. It was about 3 years traveling, just under the 3-year mark for traveling. And then I came back to Ireland, and the economy had kind of gone pear-shaped in Ireland then at that time, whatever that was. When was that? Sort of late 2000s, perhaps?
Exactly, yeah.
Or yeah, it would have been around then, wasn't it? And there was nothing going. I remember going to interviews here in Ireland, and sure, bearing in mind I only had the year's experience under the belt at this stage, and going to these interviews that were like for graduate positions, and there was lads that would have like had 10 years experience. So it was really, really hard to get your foot in the door anywhere. And so I was like, look, I'm going to have to look at something else here, either change up careers or head off. And that was when I started looking into the UK. The plan originally was to go over for the Olympics. They were starting all the work for, was it 2008 Olympics or whenever it was they were over there. I can't remember my dates on that.
In London, yeah.
The idea was to kind of head over there and see if there was any work on that. And I was applying for roles over in the UK, and a role came up in the south of England doing manufacturing engineering. So off I went on another little adventure, I suppose. And I ended up out there maybe for another, must have been nearly 7 or 8 years.
What was that environment like? Because like I can explain to the listeners, like after that period, you did a complete career change and you took on a digital marketing role with Earth's Edge. So what kind of led up to that decision?
It was a strange kind of dynamic, really, because I'd kind of gone from this 3 years of traveling where you were kind of carefree and sort of living out of a backpack and working a little bit and integrating with the locals in these areas to, fund your next kind of trip, to coming back and then getting into this sort of straight-laced career, or, it was this sort of busy professional, work hard, play hard. So just kind of pride yourself in being the first one in the door and last one out. And it wasn't a sustainable way of really, really, really working. And over time there, I just I think myself, I started to see a deterioration in myself. And I know it was like over a prolonged period of maybe, 6 to 8 years, but like even with getting into bad relationships and bad habits. And, I really started to struggle physically and sort of mentally, it's all sort of started to take its toll a little bit for me. And I even remember leaving one engineering job that was sort of too hectic for me, going like, I don't need all this pressure, and moving into another role. And kind of the love of engineering was starting to wear off a little bit at this stage. And the real turning point for me was I had this fella who was kind of, you had a mentor on your kind of career path to kind of buddied you up with someone who was more senior in the business. And this was the path that you followed. And I remember looking at him, he was always stressed, and every day was like a battle for him. And I was like, geez, that's going to be me someday. That's something to look forward to. And he had a stroke, God love him, in his early 50s, sure. Fit and healthy fella. And like, I think I was only about 30 at this stage. And I remember this was just like a light bulb for me. And I was like, yeah, I need to change. Something needs to change here, because I don't want to go down this route. And then it was just like a kind of a sequence of events over the sort of next 12 to 15 months were kind of like a catalyst of change for me. I started looking at what else could I be doing as a bit of an outlet. And I knew, I was probably still exploring myself at this stage as well, kind of what I wanted to do. And for me, digital marketing was something I started looking at. I was going, this is something that would allow me to kind of see different businesses, allow me to potentially to have some freedom to travel. I'm out of kind of hectic kind of deadlines, and I could be my own kind of boss and kind of direct things my own way. And around the same time, I met with Fiona. So me and Fiona are a Tinder romance and a Tinder marriage, I suppose, at this stage now. And we were doing that long distance thing. Yeah, that's it. God bless Tinder. Yeah. And we were doing that long distance thing for about a year. And then I had handed in my notice even before I think I had come to join you guys. And Fiona messaged me to say that there was this company called Earth's Edge based in Dublin, because I was going to be moving back home to Dublin, and they were hiring someone to do their social media and digital marketing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to reach out to these guys and have a chat with them. And you guys invited me over for the interview, and I just clicked with you guys straight away. It was just this cool little chat about a bit about digital marketing and a lot about kind of adventures. And it's just like, yeah, this place is for me. And I think it was probably about 3 months later, in the turning of the year, I was back working with you guys.
Yeah, amazing. That thing you were saying there about your mentor being super stressed, like it's great that you notice that, because it's the kind of thing I think when you're in one of these careers that, you know, your family want for you, and you're climbing this ladder that, you know, you're so invested in that industry that you can often not see it. You know, you're in that rut. So fair play to you for spotting that. Randomly enough, I was chatting to my dad, George, you know, as a GP. He'd a cancer scare there last year, and we were chatting about it. Like, in his own dad, like my George doesn't drink or smoke. He's a very good lifestyle, and all his uncles and his dad, like, they all live to be 90 odd, you know, like, so he's got good genes. But I was saying to him, like, geez, it's kind of mad that you got cancer in your early 70s. And we just were both kind of shooting the breeze, like, about the fact that, you know, he's a GP in a small town and just worked every hour that was sent to him. And, you know, he's dealing with people who are sick and stress, and it can definitely have a huge impact.
100%. Like, stress it's the silent killer, really. It's, you know, the impact it can have on us is just not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. It's, you know, it's something that we definitely have to be mindful of, and, you know, and look to kind of navigate.
Let's take a break there for some quick fire questions.
What was your first job?
First job? I actually think I had 2 jobs on the go. I had one of those local newspaper jobs where you go put all that litter into people's boxes that they don't want. And then I worked in a supermarket at the same time as well in Arklow. Pettits, it was called, stacking the shelves. I think it's a super value now. That's when you could probably start working when you were about 12 years old.
Yeah, for slave labor, basically. Good man.
Yeah, for 2 pence.
What song is always on your workout playlist?
Ooh, I love a bit of rock in the playlist. Maybe something like Rage Against the Machine or Foo Fighters. I have thrown a bit of The Greatest Showman in there, though, every now and again, just to really mix it up.
Very good. What are you reading right now?
I actually am better at kind of seeing things and listening to things. So a lot of kind of audio books and videos I'd watch. But the best book I've read recently was Atomic Habits by James Clear.
If you were stranded on a mountain with one celebrity, who would it be?
Bear Grylls would probably be a handy lad to have around. I'd say he'd have a few stories as well.
What's your favourite food to eat on a mountain?
Jelly babies.
What's your favourite piece of kit?
Oh, I still have my Earth's Edge Columbia jacket. That is a prized piece of kit, the down jacket, that.
Great, thanks for the plug there, dude.
Yeah, join the mailing list as well.
What's your biggest pet peeve when travelling?
Queues. I hate queuing. Very impatient.
If money wasn't a factor, what would you do all day?
I don't know. I'd probably still be doing what I'm doing now. If I could, as long as I could train and interact with people in some way, that would suit me. Maybe set up like a little PT school or something like that. Maybe teach some PTs.
So you're pretty much living the dream as things are. Good man.
Yeah, I can't knock it.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
I suppose I'm kind. I like to think I'm kind, caring, and I'm driven.
So then you came working for me, which obviously, you know, stress-free, never, no drama. No, I'm just kidding. But sorry, I was going to ask you, Micheál, like, obviously your whole family, like, you know, you were I mean, I don't mean to paraphrase here or put words in your mouth, but you were the first guy to go to college. You're doing really well. Like, you know, was it hard for you to break to them to basically say, I'm going to go do an area, like, you know, maybe in their eyes, like digital marketing, like for a travel company, kind of going, Jesus, that's not that stable. Like, was it tough for you to break that to them, or how did that go?
They were like, all that money we spent on college fees. No, they were, you know what, my family they're like everyone, like most people's family, like they're supportive as long as I'm happy. That's what my mom always said to me. She goes, as long as you're happy in life, you know, I can't ask for anything else. And that's always been something that I'm very thankful for them of. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I was like how are people going to react to this? And like there's friends and existing friends and old friends that would have turned to me that and said, like, what are you at? Like, this is a stupid move, leaving like a stable career path to, like, I think most people thought I was having like a midlife crisis in my early 30s. Maybe I was, I don't know. But for me, in my eyes, it was something that needed to happen. And like, there was going to be no talking me down out of that. And, it probably sounds maybe a little bit kind of selfish in that regards, but I am a real big advocate of you have to look after yourself before you can look after anyone else. And, you know, I think we're probably we are criminal as human beings to sort of disregards ourselves and look after everyone else first. And it's like that whole adage of, you know, putting on the life jacket. You know, you can't help anyone else until you have your own life jacket on first. And, you know, I really that was something that I totally overlooked for years, but something that I live by now, and not in a selfish way, but I know if I'm in my best place, I'm going to be able to put better energy out into the world and help people in the better capacity.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's funny the way like you're apologetic about it, but I totally agree with you. And I would be apologetic when I say, like, you know, if I want to look after and be kind and be right by everyone who's nearest and dearest to me, I basically have to prioritize myself and make sure I'm all right. But it's weird to say, but it's so true, like, you know.
Yeah, 100%, man.
So you then came to work for Earth's Edge Digital Marketing. You know, you became a pro at Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff. How did you, like, it's a total minefield, man, marketing. Like, it's a complete switch. Like, how did you enjoy that?
Oh man, I loved it there. Not just even the work, but like I just loved the vibe of working with you guys. And, you know, as you say, like social media, because it's such an evolving ecosystem, like you think you get the handle on one thing and then it's, you know, something new comes in or there's new platforms. But I think probably from a social media point of view, like Facebook is something, and Instagram and all these kind of platforms are the ones that are the kind of the staples out there. You know, you get a lot of other things that come around in the peripheries, but a lot of the work is done through there. But, you know, I love them, man. And to be fair, I'll always be very thankful to you guys for taking me on in the first place, because, you know, it was a place that we could be very open and transparent, and you guys were very accommodating to me during my time there to be able to kind of pursue areas that I wanted to go after in my life. Like I remember even when I started there, you sat down with me and you were like, "Oh, look, at honestly, you're here to do a job, but at the same time want to be able to kind of get you to a place where you can develop and grow in your professional life, whether it's here, whether it's doing something else." And that was for me quite refreshing. I never kind of had that in any other business before, where it allowed you to kind of explore what you wanted to do, whether it was there or somewhere else. It was always, you know, you have to give your pound of flesh to this business. You're here to do the job and get in and get it done. So, you know, I'll always be grateful for that as well, James.
I guess like one of the things that we've done with everyone that has worked for us, or for me, I should say, is like I send all my staff away on one expedition per year, because really what we're all about is the people that travel with us, their experiences, and it's so important for us in the office to stay connected to that, especially if we're doing, you know, organizing 10, 15 Kilimanjaro trips in a year, that we don't drop the standard. So I think when you go out and see people and how transformative it is to see people on one of these expeditions, you can really kind of understand how every little piece of the jigsaw is so important. So you went out to climb Kilimanjaro in 2018. How was that experience, man?
It was one of the best sort of 10 days. Is it? Yeah, 10 or 11 days of my life. It was unreal. It was not just the trip itself, but the people that you meet out there, from the porters to the guides to even the people that you meet on the trip. It was amazing. I couldn't recommend it enough. You know, I was quite lucky that I had that bit of insight of the trips from working with you guys. So, you know, probably it killed the nervousness a bit out of it in regards like, oh my God, you're going to go climb this mountain at the top of Africa. But it was just a fantastic experience. Fantastic and not so fantastic for my own food choices and a bit of food poisoning I got on the mountain. But other than that, it was an amazing trip.
Yeah, I remember that, man. Tell us about that. You were sick as a dog on that trip.
Yeah, it was the first few days. Like I look back with it, as miserable as having the food poisoning was. It was probably one of most profoundest kind of moments I've had in a long time as well. Like I don't know what it was. I probably ate something dodgy along the way before we even headed off up to the mountain. So it was I remember heading up to the gate on day one, and I wasn't feeling 100%. You know, when you kind of, it's something a bit dodgy and you feel the sweats coming on and you're like, something's going to happen here. And it just sort of, it went downhill from there. I remember just spending the first day kind of puking, and I was running on fumes really, because like I think it was Brian that was on your earlier podcast there was saying, like, you know, the importance of managing the basics, right? So getting your sleep right, being well hydrated, getting your food in on board. And these were things that I just wasn't able to do. So for the first 2 days, I was like running on fumes. But the beauty of, I suppose, it was you guys having the doctor on the trip, and you know, the guides, the porters, and everyone were so accommodating throughout. Like, and it kind of, I remember sort of saying to myself at the time, I said, look, if I can come out the other side of this, I'll be grand. You'll be grand, because I built it up so much that I wanted to get up to the top of the mountain. And I know it's not the be all and end all, and we say like the journey's, you know, the bread and butter of it. But like in my mind, I'm a devil like that. If I'm like, okay, I'm doing something, I'm getting to the top of it, which can be, I suppose, not always the best mindset to go afterwards. But yeah, like the doctor was great. They gave me the little jab one day. I remember coming out of the camp, and it was like, without being too graphic, it was any orifice that could come out, it was coming out. It was like, oh my God. And the doctor gave me the jab, and at least that plugged one end. So if anything, for the next few hours, I was only getting sick.
Yeah.
But like without that, I would have really struggled. I think over the trip itself, I lost like over a stone. I think it was something like 16 pounds or something like that I lost just in the space of like burning calories on the mountain and not actually eating for the first two or so days. But like I remember, I was probably by the third day on the mountain. I managed to hold something down, eat something, and I think it was the day going up the Barranco wall. I woke up and I was like, yeah, I'm good to go. Like this is, and it was just from there on in, I was sort of only getting a little bit stronger going through the trip then, because my energy was coming back to me. But I was kind of worried would there have been knock-on effects as a result of it. But you know, it was brilliant having the support team there, having the guides who've seen it all, having the doctors there. Just gives you that reassurance if something does go right, that you know it's all under control.
Yeah, it's the doctor, like in a case like yours, is so essential. It's good. I'm actually really interested to see after we come through the pandemic with all our newfound amazing hand hygiene skills, if we're going to have less people running into gastric issues on the mountain.
Yeah, you would hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely, man. Because we're all well versed in hand sanitizer and hand washing now, which is great. But do you know what's mad as well, man? When you think about it, like just you were saying it there, I never really thought about it this way. Like, you know, like if you had that kind of gastrointestinal issue in Ireland, you'd be like, all right, I'm taking 2 days off work, and you're laid up. But like, you know, you have the ability to keep going. Like, it's amazing the strength people find on these trips. Like, it's insane, really.
It really is. And do you know what? I don't know whether it was you that said this to me or someone said it to me before. Like, it might have been maybe even Brian Bates might have said it. But like, it is like a mountain in front of you is like kind of that, like a metaphor for life, isn't it? Like if you choose to tackle it, and go at it, you kind of have to do it, you know. But what you do get to do is you get the kind of creative environment to support you. But at the end of the day, you're the one that has to put one foot in front of the other. And every day won't be perfect. There'll be bad weather, you know, there might be something going on in the group, but ultimately you're the only one that can do it. And I think that was kind of when I got to the top, and when we got to the summit, like we were like, I was like, I had to go off and just have a little moment to myself, even because I was just like, I didn't think I would get up it. And it was, for me, it was just like a huge achievement, but not just an achievement of doing that mountain. It was just like, life's going to throw you stuff. Life's going to hit you hard, but you know, you can either stop, and sometimes you have to stop, or you can just keep on going. And in my case, I was able to persevere, but it could have easily just turned around and said, nah, this ain't for me, and like, I'm out. And I think you find some strength in yourself that you don't even realize that you might even have. And that's something that you can take back to all aspects of life afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you can draw confidence from that, and all the sweeter having the tough first couple of days that you had on the trip, you know. So, Kamir, you were saying you took a moment there on top of Kili. I was going to ask you, like, what's What are the emotions? What are you thinking about there in that period of time?
It just kind of hit you like a wave. For me, it was like, so I was the whole way up, because I felt so ropey those first few days. You start, that self-doubt starts to creep in. And I wasn't even really at crazy altitude at this stage. It was just the sense that, okay, I'm weak. The things that I know I should be doing, I'm not doing. And, this doesn't bode well. So you start doubting yourself. And sort of self-doubt is probably the most damaging thing. It can kind of eat away at you a little bit. And sort of once that we've got over those barriers and I was feeling a little bit stronger, I suppose it was just that wave of emotion when I got to the top. And not just even for what kind of had happened over those last few days, but just life in general. When you look back and you're I think I sort of took stock of a lot of things that had been, I suppose, eating away at me for years, and kind of barriers that I had and stuff that I hadn't enjoyed in my life and had changed it up, and just to kind of take that moment to take stock and say to yourself, look at, anything is really possible, but you're the master of your own destiny, really. And yeah, that for me was just, it might have only been like about 5 or 10 seconds, but for me it just felt like an hour of kind of emotions just ran over me there. And yeah, I remember just having to kind of sort of skulk off into the corner and have a little moment for myself, a little weepy eye, and reset and go back again. But the thing is, though, there's so many, everyone else at the top of that mountain is going through the same emotions and sort of having those same moments themselves, and it really is quite a powerful thing.
It's a moment in your life that you're there's a pre and post when you summit a big mountain, and it kind of defines a specific year as well. But I totally get what you're saying, man. It's amazing in when you have a 10-second moment where, you get a bit of dust or sand in your eye, and
the sinuses start playing up.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. But you do have this mental flashback. Like I used to do loads of kayaking back in the day. When you make a mistake and you go upside down in the kayak, and you're like, it's for some reason that's the same. You can have this between 3 or 4 seconds, this huge flashback of the significant parts of your life, and then you're rolling up and going again. But everybody on the mountain is different and coming in with different things. So, Daddy, man, thanks so much for sharing that. While you were working for us, you started developing your own business, and then you went on to work full-time in that. What drove that? Another career change again?
Well, I was working with G. I went back and did my personal training qualifications part-time. So fitness was like a real outlet for me for times of stress. So that's kind of where the kind of affinity towards fitness came from. First of all, I always found that no matter how bad my day was, I could go do a little bit of exercise and, you get those feel-good endorphins, and everything didn't seem so bad, or I would be able to get moments of clarity. And for me, that almost became like a buzz that I was searching for all the time. And then when I was doing that, I was training in groups, and I'd be in gyms, or I'd be out kind of doing little outdoor boot camp things or adventure races, and I just kind of loved helping people, or little techniques, and just saying maybe try this, that, or the other way. And again, I suppose Fiona has been quite a huge driving factor in my life, and she said to me, would that not be something you might be interested in doing? And I suppose she said that probably when we first started going out, and I was still working over as an engineer in England, but it was always in the back of my mind. And I said, look, I might go away and do this. And yeah, so then once I got the qualifications, I was still working with you guys, and I was working mornings and evenings in the gym. And in fairness to you, this again, it comes back to how accommodating you are. I remember you saying to me about, where is my true passion, and what do I really want to be doing long term? And it was a fantastic, simple question, but you were so sound about, look at, if your passion is in fitness and you can see your passion's there, maybe that's something for you to pursue, and almost giving me a little bit of, I suppose, permission and ownership to go after that. Because at the same time, I love working with you guys, and every day was a pleasure coming into work. So it was kind of I suppose in the back of my mind, whether I was letting myself know it or not, I was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And yeah, I went out probably 2 years, maybe doing it full time now. So I was working in a commercial gym there in Dublin. And so just kind of getting to the place where it was getting the kind of a full diary, getting known in that area. And we decided to move out west. We got an opportunity to move out to the west of Ireland. And it was always going to be on the cards, moving out to the west of Ireland. You know, we always said that somewhere we'd love to end up, because Fiona's from Mayo originally. And look, I just love this part of the world. And when the opportunity came up, I said, look, it might have come a few years earlier than we thought it would, but maybe that's a sign. So again, another little adventure. We upped and went. And yeah, we've kind of been working in a gym studio here, still serving our online clients. And the online stuff probably came more out of the clients I was serving in Dublin at the time. And they were like, right, you know, how can we kind of still stay working with you? And I had no idea of kind of online training at that stage. So it was a new kind of business to try and kind of develop. And like, lucky enough for me, like, it's a strange year this year for a lot of personal trainers, with gyms closing and that regard. So I had a kind of established online systems and an online training business that for me it was just easy to kind of plug and play once things did go a little bit of awry. But yeah, I suppose FM Fitness and Nutrition now probably started 2017, but like probably going at it properly since the end of 2018, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2 years really at it. But again, it's, you know, we're growing, we're developing it, and you know, trying to help as many people as possible.
Amazing. Yeah. Like, I know you were saying there earlier on that you really loved figuring things out in manufacturing, and then obviously I know from working with you developed a huge passion for digital marketing. But for me, like, just knowing you and how much of a people person you are, and how much you like helping people, like being a PT and help people out with their nutrition and everything like that, just seems like the perfect fit for you, you know. So congratulations on all the success, man. Fair play to both you and Fiona. So just tell us a little about FM Fitness and Nutrition. Like, what makes you guys different, and what kind of like services you provide for people online?
FM Fitness and Nutrition, yeah, the name itself, it's nothing too inventive. You know, it's Fiona and me, so Fiona and Micheál FM. But essentially what we do is we are focused on helping busy professionals and parents, essentially, you know, people that are short on time, but that are looking to improve areas of their health. And I don't mean just that the physical health that we all kind of hone in on, like the aesthetically pleasing bodies. It's, you know, the physical aspect, but the psychological aspect, the social, the economical, and the intellectual side of things. So really just trying to educate people and empower them as much as possible around fitness, nutrition, activity, and recovery. Those main kind of pillars. And the underlying foundations behind it all is the behaviors. And that's really where you get the big breakthrough with people, and just trying to bring people away from ditching those fad diets. You know, we've all done them, those like sort of, you know, quick blast, or those, you know, magic pills and lotions and potions that are sort of promising you the world but always letting you down, and helping people get into that best shape of their lives, but also letting them bulletproof their self-confidence. And you know, if we can deliver that with the people that we're working with, that's a job well done in my eyes.
Sorry, off air, you were talking about, you know, that you've really found your dream job, and that you feel like you really love what you're doing. Like, that's definitely the case. Like, can you ever see yourself having another career change again and going on to do something completely different?
If you'd asked me 10 years ago, would I be doing this now, I would have laughed at you. So I suppose never say never, but at the same time, I have a sort of a laser focus. And you know, where sometimes you're looking at things and it can be a little bit blurry, and you just haven't got your vision, or you haven't got clarity on where you're going. Like, I know where I want things to go now. I know that I want to be helping as many people as possible that are in the same boat as I was in originally, feeling that little bit lost, helping them just with their movement, helping them build a bit of strength, but ultimately educating them to be able to do that themselves. And for me, that's where my passion is. And now that I found it, it all seems very like, well, Jesus, you know, you should have, how did you not see this years ago? But yeah, for me, this is I can't ever see myself doing anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you, like, let's say you meet, like it's fantastic that you have this experience yourself, someone that was like, had a really good job, but you're unhappy, not that healthy. Like how do you generally like approach people that have a lifestyle and a job that they're not enjoying? And I presume you try and help them out to try and make those changes. How do you go about that?
I suppose ultimately the person needs to be in a position that they want to make a change, first of all. I think some of us are in the mindset that maybe we want to go a certain way, but we're not 100% ready to kind of align the direction we want to go with. But ultimately, the way I would always approach it with potential clients that come to us is really sit down with them and understand their why. And I think even whether if you're working with a coach or doing this yourself, understanding your why. And I don't mean, I want to lose a bit of weight. Really, really digging down to kind of what your motivation is. And, losing a bit of weight, very rarely when we dig down with people is losing some weight, why they want to do it. It might be, say, take my example, I was a little bit of an overweight kid, and like I always say, I'll always be in my mind an overweight kid, because in those formative years when you have, people, picking on weight and things like that, that is something that stays with you forever. But then similarly, I have had people that have come to me and they've had health scares in their family. I've had people that have come to us that want to get a little bit stronger because they're caring for people in their family, or they just have lost a little bit of confidence along the way. And they're truly inspiring when you start talking to people, because the amount of hurt and pain that is there, and worry and anguish that people have, and just getting to the root of that really allows not just the coach to fully help you, but for yourself to fully acknowledge why you're doing something and how important it is for you to do it. So that's always a starting point for me, is really getting to understand the person's perspective of it. And then obviously then it's going through the kind of practicalities of it, looking at what their goals are then outside of that, how to really facilitate that from, whether it's an activity point of view, whether it's from their nutrition, whether it's recovery. But like I said there a minute ago, ultimately what underlies it all is people's behaviors. And sometimes they're conscious behaviors to us, sometimes they're unconscious behaviors to us. And that's the beauty of having a coach, if they're unconscious behaviors to it, because you can't often see them yourself or aren't aware of them. And I love that. And I suppose it comes back to the problem solving side of things as well, being able to sit with someone and them saying, I can't see a way around this or around that. And that's truly where myself and Fiona are in our bread and butter, is to be able to kind of help people work through that. It's the best gift that I can ever get back. Gift's probably the wrong word, but is to be able to see that transformation in someone.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, I think it's just such a perfect fit for you, because I know you love helping people. So yeah, congratulations on it all. Like, fair play to you, man. It's absolutely amazing. We're in January now, Micheál, and we've all just come through Christmas, and let's say, just for argument's sake, one of the listeners is thinking of doing Kili in October later this year, and they're not doing much training. Like, I know there's not a one size fits all, but like, what kind of training program would you put them? How many hours would you need from them in a week, or what would it look like as a general outline?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I suppose the big thing that I often see with people starting off on this is to have this preconceived notion that they have to be super, super fit and, like mountaineers extraordinaire to be able to kind of undertake a trip like this. Now, obviously, the fitter you are and the more practice you have towards something, the better you're going to be with it. It's like anything in life. The more practiced you are at something, the easier it comes to you. I would say from a training perspective, try and train in a way that's going to be specific to the activity you're doing. So if you're thinking about, going up Kilimanjaro, ideally swimming isn't going to be the best thing for you. You want to be doing something that is, very similar to that activity itself. So getting out and actually hiking, you're going to be carrying a little bit of a load on the day packs. So again, maybe walking in the hills with that load that is specific to your activity. That is the best way you can train for anything. But do it in a way that is consistent for you. So don't worry about it at the case if you are, if you're only able to get out and go for a half an hour walk on the flat at the moment, that might be a big ask for you to be able to undertake something that big. So be patient with yourself and find a method of being consistent with it. And if you do book something, make sure you give yourself enough leeway to get your training to a point that you can build it up, because you're going to appreciate the whole experience a lot more if you're in a fitter and healthier state. Like if you're thinking about training then itself, think about the target muscle groups that you can train. So if you're still finding that January is a little bit still doom and gloom for you to be able to get out, still a bit dark, and the weather isn't great, and you're just thinking about what can I do in the gym at the moment or training at home, think of the muscle groups that you're going to be working. So like in the legs, building up the glutes, especially the quads, the hamstrings, all those things that really stabilize the hip and the knee, your core muscles, stabilizing all those muscles in your lower back, and even your own posture. And one thing I do a lot with people, and I probably didn't appreciate how much I actually did it when I was on Kilimanjaro myself, was just getting an awareness of your breathing. And your breathing will affect how you hold yourself, but your posture as well. And I even found that when I was on Kili, just the breathing and even being mindful of my breathing helped me, especially on that summit night. Just looking back on it now, it was something I actually quite referred to quite a lot, was just my breathing. It's just something that was almost like a little bit of mindfulness to keep me in the moment if things were feeling a little bit tougher. And then outside of that, like you can do things that you enjoy, like if you're doing a little bit of cardiovascular work, obviously that will be a benefit to you as well. Do some cardiovascular work that you enjoy. And the nice thing about having you guys there at Earth's Edge as well is you essentially have people that have been there and done that. And, it's like if someone was coming to me to try and make a positive impact on their life, they're hiring a coach. They have that almost at their disposal there, where they can reach out to you guys, and you have, really robust information packs. You have the training day, and those things are invaluable as well. And on the trek, listen to your guide, don't sort of go gung-ho at it. The guys that are on the mountain have been there and done it a million times. So listen to them and manage those variables when you're on the trek: your sleep, your hydration, your food. Know when to push on, know when to pull back. They're I suppose the big things for me if I was ever training for something like that again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you were talking about there, and what I thought of is, like, this year, man, I've actually started working with my physio full time to return to run program. So start of the year has been very
wicked.
Yeah, it's been great, man. Like, I was doing very little running, just had an issue with my knee. Now I'm up to running about 50 kilometers a week, and it's growing all the time. But like, the thing for me is like, yeah, it's great, man. But he's basically dictating to me how much running I can do. Whereas previously, like, I'd work in an injury and then I'd go out and do a 20K run and absolutely wreck my knee. So it's fantastic that he's, controlling my volume, bringing it up slowly. Do you know what I also like about having a coach is that, like, not that he's standing over me with a stick or anything, but like, I meet up with him for every 3 or 4 weeks, and I kind of feel like, geez, I better have all the sessions done. I like that kind of bit of pressure, but yeah, I'd highly recommend it. Well, guys, if any of you are interested in a tailored training program, I've included a link to Micheál and his lovely wife Fiona's business, FM Fitness and Nutrition, in the show notes, so you can check it out there. So, Micheál, thanks a million for coming on, man. Great chatting to you, and say hi to Fiona and take it easy, dude.
That's great, Jam. Thanks so much for having us on, and best of luck with it in the future, man.
This podcast was produced by Earth's Edge. We're a small business based in Ireland who organise big adventures all over the world. For more information about us and the trips discussed on this podcast, visit earths-edge.com or follow us on Instagram. Don't forget to sign up to our mailing list to be in the running to win one of our summit jackets. There's a link in the show notes. And while you're there, if you could subscribe and review the podcast, that'd be brilliant. I'm your host, James McManus. Thanks for listening and have a super week.